everybody. This is another episode of Treasure Valley Quick Tips. What it is I'm the franchise owner of Network in Action franchise, once a month professional networking groups. And it's out of Houston, Texas. And out of that, I came up with this podcast to bring on I get to meet a lot of really super nice individuals and great at what they do here in the Valley. And so I bring them on the show to share some of their expertise for our listeners. So today's a perfect example. I brought on Tom and Kory. So Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Scott. Tom Kirchmeyer, part owner of Fulcrum Home Loans in Eagle, Idaho. We do all things, mortgage related. So we're a mortgage broker, which gives us the benefit of working with a large number of lending institutions, which help us find creative ways to finance that a lot of big banks or one-stop shops don't get access to.
Cool. Hey, Kory, introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, and good to be on here again this morning. I'm Kory McCain with Grounded Realty Group. We have a small team of agents here in the Treasure Valley that we help our clients buy, sell, invest, build new homes. So it's an interesting time in the market, and glad to be on here.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Kory is a lot of people move in Idaho because of the outdoors. So, and it's also nice with the Zoom that we can do these with people anywhere they're at. So where are you at right now, Kory?
Yeah, up in Sun Valley. Came up here for a couple days, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, Sun Valley, Idaho. It's just beautiful up there. So that's great. And again, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people move to Idaho. That's because
and it's so close. It's not that far.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get there?
It's like 3 hours.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, what we've done is Kory and I kind of talk. I grew up. I'm third generation Idahoan, and I grew up here, college, everything here. And every time I think the real estate market is got as crazy it could ever get, just give it a few more years and it gets crazier. So right now, for the last several years, it has just been, we're breaking all the records on people moving here, on home prices, going up. And now we have the interest rates going up too. So it's just an interesting time. So Kory and I thought we'd get, kind of like a little multi segment of this podcast. And the first one we did, if you want to go back and watch it, was on kind of a market update here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho, and kind of what, where we're at. And the next one we did was on what should buyers and sellers do, because like me, last time I bought a house was over a decade ago. So I wouldn't have a clue. And all I hear is all the negativity on the news a lot of times. So I'd have to come to somebody like Kory or Tom to kind of get, what's the true state of things. So that's what we talk about, on the second one. And then this one, we're talking about just creative ways of financing. Because, again, a lot of the news out there is all, I don't know, I just think a little bit too negative. So I want to bring some people on. They maybe give a couple options. And it isn't, Kory said last time, which I loved, he just said, hey, maybe it isn't the right time to buy a house, and it might not for you and your circumstances, but other times you're moving here from another, because you're getting a new job. Maybe it is the right time for you. So anyway, hey, Tom, and I asked Tom beforehand, which was very helpful, Tom, is what are some of the, the top couple questions you get asked over and over and over again. So that's what we're going to cover today. So the first one is, with the increasing, rates, what are some ways to keep your payments low when you shop for a new home? So over to you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's probably the number one question is, we were spoiled for 2 years with rates that were, historic lows, 2.5%, 3% interest rates. It was, a lot of people were able to buy houses that they might not be able to buy today. And so the question that I get is, hey, rates are increasing. Can I afford these payments? And it's a fair question, especially with, gas prices going up. Everything seems to be getting more expensive. So when I walk through with a client who's looking at a house, we like to have as many options for them so that they can understand how payment works. And there are a number of really good products out there, and especially being a mortgage broker where I've got, 15 banks that I work with that have unique programs for first-time home buyers, for buyers that have maybe lower income and stuff like that are really beneficial. So one of my favorite products out there right now to help keep payments low is we have, anytime you put less than 20% down on a home, you have something called PMI. That's monthly mortgage insurance. It's a added cost to keep banks from running into issues with defaulting loans. We have a product that if you're able to put 10.01% down on a house, we can actually get you out of PMI. And it's not,
Wow.
it's not just taking a higher interest rate or something like that, but it allows a qualified buyer to save, upwards of between $80 and $200 a month in payment by coming up with a little bit more for a down. So that's usually the first one that I go to is, how much money do you have to put down? And if there's someone that has a qualifying FICO score and they have that 10% down or close to it, I'll encourage them, hey, put 10.01% down. We can actually get you out of PMI, which is going to save you, anywhere from $70-$80 to $200 a month. And that's probably the biggest one. The
Tom,
next
question for you. Tom,
Yeah.
a quick question for you is what I want to make sure I got that straight here is, okay, typically it's 20% down.
Mhm.
But what do you have to, is it another 10% you have to have down to get rid of the PMI?
So to get rid of this, so typically it's always been, if you have 20% to put down, then you don't have PMI. And now we've got a product that is called like a PMI buster. And with the right, it's a great product for somebody who's got a qualifying FICO score and has just over 10% to put down. We can get them out of that PMI. And so that's how they save that $200 a month. And it's been extremely helpful. It's competitive for us and our agents because, now our buyers have more purchasing power, because that's upwards of $200 that doesn't count against your debt to income.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, that's awesome.
Another one to touch on is Fannie and Freddie, the governing bodies of mortgages, have recalculated what's called AMI, and that's your annual median income for a household, and they've increased that in the Treasure Valley by over $12,000 a year. So the annual median income is now, I think it's like 80 something $1,000, where it was $74,000. And there are products out there, especially for first-time home buyers who are putting less money down, that they can get what's called like a home ready loan, and that will have if they qualify for that with their combined income, they can get a lower interest rate than if you were making more money and just doing it the conventional way, and they would have less on PMI than a traditional loan. So that's a new one. Well, that program's been out, but the adjustment of the income has made it where more people can qualify for that.
Cool. Well, those are great. I mean, like I said, this is what I brought you on here for, is just some things that kind of was, again, all the gloom and doom all the time. It's like at least someone should come to you to kind of like see if there's an option. And I love the fact that you have not just one financial institute that you're working with up to 15 different ones, because my circumstances might not be the same as my neighbors if they're coming to you.
And
So you can shop for us, basically.
Exactly. And as a whole, so basically PMI, or monthly mortgage insurance, is a protection mechanism to protect from loans defaulting and banks losing out on all this money. But it's regulated, and they're only allowed to collect so much money per loan, basically, to fund the insurance. And they have been collecting so much, especially with the housing boom and more people purchasing the last couple of years, that they're actually in the process of lowering PMI as a whole, industry whole, just because they've collected all the money that they need to collect. So we're going to start to see PMI lower anyways, which is also going to help first-time home buyers or people who maybe don't have 20% to put down on a house. They're going to have a little bit cheaper, PMI for that reason as well, to go along with some of those cool products.
That's great. Hey, Kory. Oh, I was gonna say, do you have anything to
Yeah, I was gonna say from the agent perspective too, we're getting a lot more savvy with how we negotiate our offers. There's some opportunities out there just for buyers to really get some closing cost credits at closing from the seller. So we're putting that into offers right now where, you know, maybe 1% closing cost or $10,000 closing cost, where that buyer is able to buy down the rate and it doesn't cost them anything out of pocket. So, I mean, there's even some builders out there right now offering 1% lower interest rate. They'll buy down the rate for you 1% lower. So it's just gotten more and more important for an agent to just know what products are out there, know how to negotiate on offers, so we can get our buyer into a house where they're comfortable with the monthly payment. So that's just something we're seeing on the buyer end as well.
No, I love that. And I know that you and Tom work together, Kory. And that's what I like to see too, is because two high caliber people get working together. Because again, if I'm buying a house or selling a house, I want every opportunity to either sell my house, every benefit, and also to buy a house. I want to get every benefit to make it as cheap as I can buy it.
Yeah. And I think too, there's some perspective, and I'm sure Tom gets this as well, but whatever you lock your payment in today, like that's the worst it's going to get for 30 years. You're locked in for 30 years. So, you know, that payment's not going up. It could definitely go down if you end up refinancing or you have more equity, things like that. But, you know, unless you get an adjustable rate mortgage, but if you get a 30-year term, then it's not going to get any worse than it is today. So most of the time, if you can make it work today, it's going to look a lot better down the road. So.
Yeah. And then like you mentioned on one of the previous episodes that I didn't really think about, but it's kind of like a no-brainer, is that let's say everything makes sense. You work with Tom and you, yay, I buy a new house. Everything's good. I can afford the payments. Would I wish they're a little bit lower? Sure, I could, but I can afford them. Now, 3 years from now, everyone's the gloom and doom. All of a sudden, the clouds clear and the rates drop again. I'm going to run right back over to Tom and refinance.
Yeah.
And that's something that I like to prep a lot of my buyers with is hey, rent is 100% interest, right? You're not gonna get anything out of that other than a roof, over your head. So if we can find a payment that works for you, and you're not, the great thing about working with good agents like Kory is that, they're going to help you find your dream house. So if you can find your dream house and you can make the payment work, obviously it's got to be within your budget and it's got to make sense. But if you can handle the payment, you can always refi down the line. So you can save money a year from now, 2 years from now, whether that's, lowering your interest rate, getting out of PMI, whatever the situation is, you can lower that payment, knowing that as you do it now, like Kory said, your payment's never going to go up. But hey, in 2 or 3 years, you might not be able to find your dream home if, prices continue to go up in the housing market, which they traditionally do.
And people keep moving in.
Exactly.
Less inventory. Oh, well, cool. That's great. Hey, so here's the next one the question you get asked a lot is, what are some first-time home buyer or income-driven loan products?
Yeah, so if a first-time home buyer is kind of defined as somebody who hasn't been on title in the last 3 years. So even if you purchased a home, 10 years ago and you sold it 5 years ago and you've not been on title for the last 3 years or more, then you're considered a first-time home buyer. So first-time home buyer.
I never knew that. I mean, in all these years, I've always thought I could never apply. I could never get any of the benefits out of being first-time home buyer. So as long as it's been over 3 years, I'm considered a first-time home buyer.
3 years since you've been on title. And so the cool thing about that is if you're married and your spouse has never owned a home in the last 3 years, then technically you would still qualify for some of those perks. So a first-time home buyer product is just, you can get as low as 3% down on a conventional loan, which it was helpful, for first-time home buyers, because typically you're not selling a house, getting a bunch of equity to put towards your down payment. So you get to put, less down. And now with those annual incomes going up, you can qualify for, a better interest rate, qualify for that. There's still, FHA programs, which is 3.5% down, which comes with a pretty good interest rate, even in today's market. And then there's programs like Idaho Housing, which is, you're going to get down payment assistance. So you are taking on essentially 2 loans, but it's another way to, if you've got less money to put down, but you can qualify for the payment, that's another avenue to look at that will help you qualify for a loan.
Great. And then go back, because maybe you said it and I just didn't get it, but then on the income driven loan products.
Yeah, so that's kind of more like with the AMI, the annual median household income being raised, more people are going to qualify for the Home Ready, Home Possible mortgage programs, which are based on if you're making under a certain amount of money, you're going to qualify for a slightly better interest rate, slightly better PMI. So you still can put 3-5% down and qualify for these programs that allow for a little bit smaller payment. It's been tough for the last 2 years because housing's going up and the median income had not gone up much. So less people were able to qualify for that. But now that it's been raised about $12,000, that opens up a whole new batch of people who are going to qualify for those programs.
That's great. Hey, Kory. So what right now, what's your mix of, I guess with the interest rates going up, what's the mix of new home buyers versus not new home buyers?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen more people that are kind of like resale, like they have a house to sell. So just with the market slowing down a little bit, it's opened up more opportunities for people who maybe had been interested in selling the last few years, but the market was so hot, they were worried about finding a new house. So we're seeing more like contingent offers being accepted, sellers who are thinking about selling, who would also need to buy a home more so than first-time home buyers. That's just what I've seen in my business, but there's agents out there who specialize in first-time home buyers. So there's still lots of good opportunities for first-time home buyers out there. I just don't work with a ton of them, but there, again, like I said, there's agents that they specialize. They know those loan products that Tom mentioned, way better than I do, and they're able to really work with their clients and serve them well and help them get in a home. So
I was gonna say, I know there has to be some new home buyers, because every time I drive down the street, I see another subdivision being built. And so it's like crazy. So then here's the next question that Tom is one of Tom's most asked questions is, since the rates have increased, right? Is it still, and this is Kory and I talked a little bit about this in a previous episode, but since they've increased, is it still a good time to buy a home?
Yeah, I think Kory and I kind of touched on that one already. I think, I mean, you're buying something that's going to gain value, and like we kind of touched base on, you can always, if you can afford the payment now, you're getting out of rent, which rent is, we always tell people rent's 100% interest rate, because you're going to be paying that money. You're not getting any ownership. You're not going to get anything in return out of that. So if you can afford the payment on the house, do it. You're going to gain equity. You can always lower your payment down the line to make things a little bit less expensive. And typically when you're buying, especially first-time home buyers, this isn't your forever home. So get into something that you can afford, get into something that can kind of get you going, so that 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now you've got equity built into the house. You can either sell and upgrade, or you can refinance and rates go back down.
Yeah, again, that's perfect. I mean, again, like we talked about that, and again, here in the Valley, going back to something you said at the very beginning, was, if you rent right now, but back when I rented right out of college, when I moved, you could afford rent. Well, here the rent's as much as a house payment. So I'm not saying exactly that. It is, the rent's just so sky high here that it makes sense that if you can't afford the payment, you might as well get a house that's going to build equity.
Correct.
Yeah, because the rent around here is not cheap. What are some of the benefits of a market with higher interest rates? Is there any benefits to having higher interest rates?
Yeah, there's always some good when things look bad. So an example of a benefit is more people are going to be afraid to go out and purchase. And so that's going to open up more homes to you because there's going to be more availability. It gives you, leverage on the buy side. If your rates are higher, more people are going to get scared of buying, and they're going to take themselves out of the market completely. And that's just going to open up more inventory. That's going to open up more space for negotiation on purchase price, things like that. So I think nobody wants a higher payment, but when you do have higher interest rates, a lot of people are going to have or can benefit from that because there are going to be less people in the market.
Right. And hey, Kory, that ties right back on what you said, right?
Yeah.
That you're finally not having, 10, 20 offers on a home. You're actually having some that have contingencies now.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to think about if you want to buy the home and sleep on it, and it's still available the next morning when you decide if you want to buy it or not.
Yeah, so there's a good thing is there's always something, always something good out of something bad. So, well, perfect.
Definitely.
Well, hey, this has been great, guys. I really appreciate it. I think this has been real beneficial to the listeners. It is to me, again, because it just, again, I that's why I brought you guys on, is that I listen to just a little bit of the news in the morning, and I don't try to listen to it, but usually it's kind of the not so good thing. So it's just nice to see. But I know you look around and people are buying houses here and stuff, so something's going on. So you guys are showing that, you can get financing. It might not be right now, but for a lot of people, you should at least reach out to Kory for, if you're looking to buy a house. But before you do that, you probably should want to meet with Tom, because you'll know what you can afford. Right, Tom?
I think, that helps me help Kory, is when you have what you qualify for, what you're willing to pay each month. That's going to help Kory do his job in finding you your home. Yeah,
and that seems simple, but I tell you, that's a big mistake. Is a lot of people want someone like Kory to run around, look at all these homes, and unfortunately, just because of their circumstances, they can't qualify for that house. So why waste all your time? Why not look at houses that you can afford? That you can actually put an offer down and get it accepted. And I've heard, and I'm sure Tom, and I've heard it from like Tom and Kory, that people have made that mistake. So no. So if you're going to look for a house, stop by Tom, talk to him, just see if there's, what's all your options. And then Tom from there can guide you over to Kory to start getting you out and looking at homes.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yep.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
hey,
Scott.
If someone's going go ahead. Hey, if someone's going to reach out to you, Tom, where would they reach out to you the best way? And I'll put your contact information in, but what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way is my phone number, which you'll have. Thank you, Scott. You can email me at tom@Fulcrum Home Loans, or you can just go to our website at fulcrumhomeloans.com. We're locally owned. We're out here in Eagle, Idaho. We've got a brick and mortar site, so you can come in. We can sit down face to face and go through the pre-approval process, or we can do it all over email and phone. It's nice and easy.
Cool. Kory, how can they get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you? And again,
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, so check the show notes, but groundrealty.com is our website. You can follow us on Instagram, The Real Estate Ranger. And yeah, just my phone number, and we'll kind of walk you through the process and help you along the way. So
awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks Tom, Kory, and thanks listeners, and get ready for the next one we're having on that. You'll learn more about the real estate industry, residential real estate industry here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho. Thanks everybody.
thanks.
Thank you, Scott.